We are live. Hey, everybody. We are going to give a couple minutes. We're not quite ready to start. It's not quite 11:30 Eastern time. So Nicole and I are going to hang out here, let everybody get settled in, and we'll get started right at 11:30. So welcome.
Should be an exciting conversation today.
Yes,
I hope.
very excited. Everybody always wants to know about social media.
Well, I'll do my best.
Oh, I'm excited. You've got lots to offer. So that is no worry at all. Hopefully everybody's having a good Thursday. I have a friend who posted on Facebook this morning that it was Friday Junior. Thursday is Friday Junior.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to steal it.
Yeah, no kidding. So happy Friday Junior, I'll say, or Friday Eve.
Especially in August. I feel like August is one of those months, those relaxing months that, you get a lot of out of office messages in
Yes,
August.
lots of vacationing before school starts, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and get officially started. Welcome, everyone. Super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're definitely gaining more and more audience as we go. I think this is like week 7 or 8 of Nonprofit Coffee Talk. So thank you all for tuning in. We think that you'll find the session today really helpful. And so we're excited about that. So just by way of introduction, I'm Libby V, nonprofit champion, and I founded Libby V and Associates. We work with nonprofit leadership, and we do visioning and theory of change work, leadership coaching, fundraising, organizational and board development, and our nonprofit clients successfully raise more money and have more impact with their organizations. But not all nonprofits can afford to hire a consultant. So I created the Nonprofit Coffee Talk as a way to provide great content, helpful information, and get it out there to as many nonprofit people as I can for free. So that's what this is all about. I hope you find it useful. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me on social or email me and offer up suggestions for other topics that you'd like us to cover. So my project manager, Ariel Dotson, couldn't be on today, but I just want to give kudos to her. She is really the one that pushed me to get this going. So I have to give her a lot of credit for that and a lot of thanks. So here with us today is Nicole Porter with Monomoy Social Media. And I met Nicole, I don't know, probably almost a year ago. Somebody connected us. And I ended up utilizing her social circle program myself for my own organization. And it just was the way for me to get active on social media. So I knew I needed to be doing it, and I just wasn't doing it. And I needed the structure and the accountability and the little help and push. And that program has just been instrumental. Every month ahead of the month, Nicole creates a whole month of Canva designs for graphics and even gives you suggestions for posts. It's just a great way to get started. But she's going to talk more about social media in a broader context today. I just wanted to mention that, though, that has been incredibly helpful. So thank you, Nicole, for that. So I want Nicole to introduce herself. She's got a really cool story about how she got here.
Well, thank you so much, Libby. I'm so excited to be on the Nonprofit Coffee Talk. I've been watching you for the past 6 weeks, and it's just been really inspiring. So I was psyched when you asked me. And I am Nicole Porter, and my business is Monomoy Social Media. I got my degree in marketing way back when Mark Zuckerberg was still building Facebook in his dorm. So it was a little bit different. But I went into the chocolatier world for about 10 years. So I would hand make chocolate all day long. And once I had my three sons, I said no more chocolate making. I would literally stand in my kitchen all day and dip one by one and I would ship it worldwide. And but that's really how I got my start in social media marketing. So originally I had brick and mortar shops, and then I moved the chocolate making to my home kitchen, and I focused solely on Facebook and Instagram marketing. I did email marketing, and I actually used Reddit at the time. And that's how I sold everything. And so at that time I was actually in a BNI, and the mortgage broker asked me if I would come to her office and teach her how to use Facebook. And I had other people saying, I see you, I get your emails, I see you on social media, and I want to know how to do that. And so I went down, and I actually brought my baby with me, and I had I wrote her a whole plan, and I showed her how to use everything. And then I was leaving, and she paid me. And I thought, wow, why am I not doing this? So I said, my strength is in marketing. And so I really dove deep into the social media world, and I took a lot of courses, and never looked back. I shut down the chocolate making, and here I am today doing this business. So that was about 7 years ago. My youngest is 7 now. And, I started out small and built up. And so now we offer full service marketing, social media marketing. We do it for people. Our goal really is to take it off their plate. And that's everything from strategy to posting for them to interacting for them, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And then I also have my social circle program that Libby was talking about, where we help people do social media. So it's a much more reasonable price point, where if you don't have the budget to have somebody come on and do it for you, this is a great option where you get group coaching. You can ask your questions, get them answered, figure out what's best for your organization, and you get content, you get graphics and captions. So you're not doing everything from scratch, and you're getting the support you need at a lower price point than having somebody come on and take it over for you.
Yeah, it's great. And you have so many helpful videos on the platform. When you're a member of Social Circle, you get so many helpful tips and how-to videos. And I mean, I really learned how to use Canva by your video tutorials, and have gotten okay at doing that just by watching those. So this is great.
Awesome.
If you're ready, I just wanted to kind of ask the first question. So I think some people, when they hear of social media and then creating relationships on social media, they're like, what? What are you talking about? How do I do that? And why would I do that? And isn't it just me posting, creating really good graphics or good video or photos and a catchy post? And, I didn't know it was two-way. I thought it was just me talking to people. So talk about that a bit, why that's important and how to do it well.
So that is a big piece of using social media that I feel like a lot of people miss out on, and they could really get a lot more from these platforms if they take this into account. And so we were talking before the show started, about how social media is really built to be social. And it's not called marketing media, it's called social media. And the reason that people go on these platforms is to have conversations, and they're there to interact with other people. And as somebody that's trying to get a mission statement out, you're trying to get your vision out to the world, you kind of think as a marketer and not as a user. But if we think as a user, it can really help our presence. We're so used to traditional forms of marketing where you're putting out your magazine ad, your radio ad, your TV ad. Even a website can be a little bit more static than the constant movement on social media. So those types of media, you're putting out the content, and then that's it. You're not doing anything else with it. It's out there, and then if somebody contacts you, they contact you. And that's all you have to do. But it's very different on social media. And what I talk about in building relationships is really just talking to people. It's very simple, but we miss it. We don't do it. And it's not something that really has to take a lot of time. You can put 15, 20 minutes into your day a couple times a week and just go out on your chosen platforms, the ones that your people are on. So if you're trying to reach donors, if you're trying to reach volunteers, maybe you're trying to reach the people that you're trying to help with your nonprofit, go where those people are showing up and converse with them. Just talk to them. If there's a post with, a complimentary nonprofit or a complimentary business that serves the audience that you're trying to reach, go and comment to that post. Leave them some genuine feedback. And more than likely, those people that are following that person are going to see it. The people that are running that page are going to respond, and you're going to start building that relationship the more often you do that. I like to keep a spreadsheet. I do this for all of my full service clients, is we keep a spreadsheet of the people that we want to interact with. So for instance, if, as Monomoy social media, if I want to comment on Libby's posts at least every other week, I'm going to have that in my spreadsheet. And I'm going to make sure that, at least every other week, I'm going to go and I'm going to comment on Libby's posts. That way, I'm building the relationship with Libby. I'm able to stay in touch with her. I remember to do that through my spreadsheet. I have it put into my calendar. Okay, Mondays and Fridays, I'm going to go and comment on people. And that way we're able to build our relationship, and we don't have to be on the phone all the time. We don't have to be on email all the time, but we're staying top of mind with each other, and we're helping each other, and we're getting to know each other. So you can really use these platforms very strategically to build relationships, and it will start to snowball the more you do it, and you'll start to see bigger and bigger results the more you do this. And it can really make a big impact when you're trying to get your message out there beyond just putting out that content.
Yeah, I heard somewhere along my journey of being an entrepreneur, right, that you should, and I don't know what you think of metrics or whatever, but that you should really make a goal of commenting or asking a question on 5 people's posts a day. That's kind of the number that, at least getting started. And some people will balk at that and think, oh, I shouldn't be counting. I should just be doing this naturally and being relational about it. But sometimes just what you said, setting up a spreadsheet or being accountable and doing that can really be helpful. Can you talk a little bit about, like, are there a certain number you recommend or a frequency or anything like that?
So I have a couple answers to this question. I'm a big fan of doing what works for you. And I think if you hear, okay, I have to comment on 5 people's posts every day, and that gives you anxiety, you're probably not going to do it. Right. But if I say to you, can you comment on 2 people a week, and you start there, and, okay, you pick 2 people and you're going to comment on their posts every week, and that seems doable to you, then do that. And then once you get into the rhythm of doing that, build up from there till you get to those 5 people. I don't have a certain number that I like. I put in 3 for myself daily as a goal.
Okay.
But I often do more just because I see things and I comment, and I try to be very relational on these platforms. But the second answer to that question is where you were talking about, I want to be relational and I just want to do it when I see it. And yes, you want it to be authentic, but chances are, if I don't put it in my schedule and I don't have that spreadsheet, I'm not going to do it. Libby is somebody that I love to stay in touch with, but if I don't have that in my spreadsheet, I'm going to forget. I mean, I have so much going on. I have 3 kids, I have a husband, I have 2 dogs, I have 6 ducks, I have a business to run. Yeah. If I don't have that spreadsheet, if I don't have it in my calendar, then it's not going to happen. And that doesn't mean I can't be authentic. It doesn't mean that when I go to your post, Libby, that I'm not genuinely trying to interact with you.
Yeah.
I am. It's just my reminder. I mean, I even do that with like my relatives, like, oh, I haven't touched base. Like, make sure you're doing this once a month, because my relationships are important to me. And so I feel like I'm showing that importance by putting it in my schedule and making sure I have those reminders in place.
Yeah, and so, relating to nonprofits, and a lot of social media is done, for general marketing and just to get followers, but ultimately, I think they want to get people who really want to engage with them, whether to volunteer
Mhm.
or to donate, be on the board or whatever. Um, and I assume that this applies to them too, and engaging with individuals, whether they be donors, board members, whatever, on social media. So, the lines between work and home have been completely blurred. And I think people expect that. So, do you have any thoughts about that whole thing?
About interacting for nonprofits in general, I think they can also use it very strategically, because a lot of times, if you're looking for volunteers, the people that your volunteers are hanging out with are similar people to them, right? So, and the same thing for donors, and the same thing for people that might be using your services, whatever they might be, right? So, if I'm trying to work with, children's hunger, and somebody is looking at that post for children's hunger and they say, okay, there's a meal site over here, and they probably know other families that are needing this service. So if you're in touch with them on social media, right, if they comment, and like, for instance, let's use Twitter as an example, because Twitter tends to work very well for nonprofits. All of my nonprofit clients do very, very well on Twitter. So if you post that there's a meal site, and then somebody comments, oh, I'm so excited that you're doing this, I can't wait to see you. And then you're able to follow that person. You're able to go and then comment on that person's posts as well. We can't wait to see you there, and continue that relationship by commenting over there. And then people are going to see that and they're going to say, this nonprofit really cares. They're out there actually talking to the people they're helping. And that works for volunteers and donors as well. If somebody is donating to your nonprofit, and okay, this person is very active on Facebook, or this person is very active on LinkedIn, and you can make that connection with them over there, and then they post something and you're able to respond to that, they're going to really know, wow, they're out there and they're really paying attention to me and what I do. And they're going to be, their friends are going to see that, but they're also going to be really connected to your organization at that point, because you're going above and beyond, and it's not such a huge time commitment like a mailing would be, or something like that, or also such a huge financial commitment, like a mailing would be, to touch base with folks like that. So there's a lot of different people and different ways to stay in touch on these platforms. So, responding to them and connecting with them, following them, making sure you're commenting on what they're putting out there. There's a lot you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we often, when we work in nonprofits, I know I've worked in nonprofits my whole career. You sort of feel like you're speaking for the entity, right? Like you're speaking for the organization, right? And that's what you're putting out at social media. But social media is such a personal thing. And the way that we engage potential donors or potential volunteers who are also donors, it has to be personal, right? It's a personal thing. Asking for money is a personal thing, and we've got to
Mhm.
establish those personal relationships. Is what I hear you saying. Is it's not unlike a friendship, even. You just want to make sure that you're connecting with that person from a real, genuine perspective in a real personal way. Um,
Yeah.
so, um,
Yeah.
what are some tips you have for nonprofits?
So beyond the engagement piece, one of the challenges I see a lot for nonprofits, specifically on social media, is they often have a dual market. So you have your volunteers and donors, and you have the people you're helping, and those are often two separate markets. And so I think what my biggest tip for nonprofits would be is pick one platform for each of those places so you don't overwhelm yourself. Because often you have a volunteer or somebody that's doing your social media for you, and it often is a volunteer or like a what's the word I'm looking for? You're like an AmeriCorps type person, like
Yeah,
a
like an intern or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so they have other things they're doing as well. And so if you can pick, really focus. I'm not a big fan of going broad. I am a big fan of focusing and narrowing down and really, niching in on where your people are hanging out so you can really connect with them deeply as opposed to broadly. And I think that would be my number one tip is really focus. Pick one platform for each of them. So if Twitter is where your volunteers and donors are hanging out, really focus your efforts for them on that platform. If you're, if the people you're helping are on Facebook, really focus your efforts for them on Facebook, but just do one for each because otherwise you tend to get overwhelmed and then
Yeah.
not do it. And that's a big problem, I think, for a lot of people is they don't plan ahead. They don't
Yeah.
think about, where is the best place to really reach these people.
Right.
And then things don't end up getting posted. So I think that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is plan ahead, schedule it. And it goes back to that spreadsheet type strategy where if you don't plan it in and you don't have something going out, it's likely to go to the wayside and not happen.
Yeah.
And if you leave it to what am I going to post today, you're probably not going to post. So if you're able to plan it out, use a scheduling platform, there's a ton of free ones out there. Twitter, you can schedule right on Twitter. You can schedule a tweet and it's free. You don't have to post it right away. Same thing on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're scheduling it out, you're going to have a consistent batch of content going out. And then if you're at an event, if you feel inspired, if something strikes you, you can post it or you can save it and schedule it out for the future. Nobody's saying you can't do that. You're not going to break it. That's another thing. You're not going to break it. You're not going to break social media. And I think people get nervous about that. And they're like, oh, what if I post twice in one day? Great. Post twice in one day. It's going to be fine. Right. You're great. But if you have that content plan and if you have it scheduled out, it's going to happen. And if you get inspired, you can always add to it without breaking the system. It's not going to break it. So focus and plan and engage. Those are the three things that you can do to make a big difference in your social media presence.
Good. Excellent. That's really helpful. Shoot, I had a follow-up question. I think, one of the best things I learned early on from you was, I really wasn't thinking about where my audience was. I was just thinking, oh, I need to be on all the platforms. I need to start doing TikTok and I need to be active on Instagram and I should be, and without really thinking strategically about, but should I are those the places, and then being like get on Clubhouse and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll spend all my time on social media. So I think that's really critical is figuring that out. So can you give people some tips on really how to figure out where your audiences are hanging out on social media?
Sure. Yeah, I think you're really spot on with what you're saying because I think a lot of people, they like you said, oh, I gotta be on TikTok, I have to be on Clubhouse because they're new and they're growing. And yes, they're great, but if your audience isn't there, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels and you're not going to be getting anywhere. And so, I think each platform tends to have their own strengths, right? And so when I'm looking at Facebook now, I'm looking at older audiences, probably baby boomers, maybe slightly younger. And one of the biggest benefits of Facebook as a social platform is their groups because they have a lot of niche specific groups that you can interact in. And so I think that is probably one of the biggest benefits of using Facebook as a platform. And because it has a bit of an older demographic, they also tend to have more income and they have bigger buying power. So you might be more likely to find donors there. Twitter is very fast moving. Like I said earlier, a lot of my nonprofits do really well on Twitter. Twitter tends to have a very passionate audience. And they tend to latch onto a cause, right? So maybe your volunteers are going to be on Twitter. If you kind of think about what does well on Twitter, it tends to be sports, weather, celebrities, politics. That type of content tends to do really well on Twitter because they're passionate people that spend time there. They want to know about that stuff, and it's so quick. It just goes. Like you could tweet 25 times a day and it would be fine. It's very fast moving. So I think that nonprofits tend to do well there because of that, because they get people that can latch onto their cause. LinkedIn is very business to business focused. I like to think of it like a big networking group. And so if your audience is more business focused, you might find donors there. That might be a good place depending on who your market is, who the donors are that you're trying to capture, right? If you're getting like maybe a larger donor, that would be a great place to build that relationship, connect
Or
with
maybe
them,
a
like a corporate.
sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or foundation.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. So a place like that would be a wonderful place to build that relationship. When I look at Instagram and TikTok also, they both have younger audiences. TikTok even younger than Instagram. But they could be a place if you have something is very visual, those places are great to show up. And because of the younger audience, they're really in tune with that GoFundMe culture where they give a little here, a little there, something grabs them and they want to give, or they want to give their time. So that would be a way to connect with people on those platforms, right? Really kind of connect them to your organization and what the benefits are, kind of pull at their heartstrings a little bit. And if that's the type of fundraising you're doing, then that could work. So it really it depends on your market, depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Are you going for that big corporate sponsor? Or are you going for the many smaller donations? Who you're trying to help, where are they where are they showing up? And so there's a lot of different uses for those things. And TikTok, it's increasingly popular, but if you don't have the bandwidth to produce short form video, it might not be the place for you. But if you are able to do that, if you have maybe a longer video or you have short clips that you can repurpose, that might be a good place because it's very scrollable. Like it's addicting. People get on there and they scroll from one to the next. And it's growing rapidly. It actually got more views than Google did in 2021. Which
did
is
it really?
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yes. How is that
I'm
possible?
interested. I know it's insane. And I'm interested to see what the analytics for 2022 will look like, because now you have Instagram trying to compete with that. And so when you're making reels on Instagram, they're going out to more people because they want to compete with TikTok. But again, if your market isn't in those places, then it's not worth your time because you're going to end up, spinning your wheels and you won't get the response you're looking for. So really, your audience, but also what are you trying to accomplish? Like I said, those big donors, the smaller donors, volunteers, you're trying to reach the people you're trying to help. So, you really have to look at your goals as well as the market. It's kind of a dual strategy.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. So we're about to the end of our time. I mean, the 30 minutes always goes by so fast, but I don't know if I learned this from you, but for some reason I was like, I'm going to do 2 platforms. That's all I got. 2 platforms. That's what I feel like I can get my head wrapped around. So, I learned from you and I narrowed down and I decided LinkedIn and Facebook were the places for me. And I've done those too. Is that you recommend that? Like just do a really good job on one or two of them first before you try to do everything? Or is there any science to that? Or I mean, I know you want to pick by your audience, but is there a certain number that you'd say just get started with one or two or three or whatever?
Yeah, I think if you're just starting out and you don't really have much of a presence and you have limited capacity, then two is your max. Like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of niching down and focusing and not going wide, because you will overwhelm yourself. You will overwhelm the person doing your social. You'll overwhelm your volunteers. And then it probably won't get done.
Right.
And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of doing what is manageable for you
Yes.
so that it
Yeah.
does get done. What is manageable for you in your organization? And I know volunteers can come and go. And so if you have, okay, I'm somebody that says I'm going to do your social media for 6 months, and then you have somebody else stepping into that role, are they going to want to take over 5 platforms when they're first getting started? They might not.
Right.
But if you
Right.
can tell them it's two platforms and this is what we do, then it's much more manageable for somebody stepping into that role. So yeah, two is a great number to start with.
Yeah. That's great. I appreciate that. Because it can be overwhelming for sure. It's easy to get overwhelmed when you're starting, especially. This has been incredible. Thank you so much. I want to give you an open invitation to come back at some point and talk some more, because this topic is a hot one and people just can't get enough of it. And it changes all the time, too. It's a changing landscape. So I really value
Absolutely.
your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you out there watching, tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. We'll be here again next week at 11:30 every week. So we're looking forward to next week's conversation as well. And we'll be getting that information out soon. Nicole, thank you. And
Thank you
everybody, we're
so
signing off.
much.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone.